Hello, everyone. I'm super excited for today's discussion. We're going to get rolling here shortly, but first we're going to give everyone just a couple of minutes to join in. In the meantime, feel free to comment where you're tuning in from. One of the cool things that I love doing about these webinars is being able to connect with so many people all over the world. I'm based here in Austin, so if you're here, let me know. Maybe we can grab a cup of coffee or some lunch or something. Just let me know. We'll get started here in just a second. Thanks. Awesome. We've got some people from San Diego, Omaha. This is great. Northwest Montana, Clarksville, Tennessee, Boulder, Colorado. This is awesome. There's a lot of people. No Texans yet. Anybody abroad? Anybody not in the United States? Boca Raton, Florida. Hey, there's an Austin, Texas. Awesome. Cool, cool. All righty. Awesome. So I think we've got some people joining in, so we'll get started here. Awesome. There's my camera. There you go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Outrank Your Competition on Google. I am your host and digital marketing evangelist, Justin Meredith, and today's topic is one that I've been excited about for a while now. SEO has been such a hot topic lately, and it feels like everyone is trying to find ways to improve their online presence. And one of the most important things is making sure that you rank ahead of your competitors on Google search. So that's why that's what we'll be talking about today. Before we get started, we just have a few housekeeping things to go over. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the Q&A box located on the right. And you can also see this here on the image on your screen. We are more than happy to answer your questions at the end of the webinar. No questions are too small, so feel free to ask. And if we're not able to get to them by the end of the webinar, we will be sending you an email with an answer. So even if you ask a question, we can't answer it right now, you'll still get an answer at some point in the future. We'll have someone email you. Now, I'd like to introduce today's special guest. He goes by SEO Steve. He's the CEO and Senior Search Strategist at Wiideman Consulting. He's an adjunct professor at the University of California, San Diego, and the author of SEO Strategy and Skills, Steve Wiideman. Steve, thank you so much for joining us today.
Justin, thanks for having me. You know, I always love to start out with something fun like an icebreaker. So I got a joke for you. Why
Awesome.
did the SEO cross the road?
Why?
Oh, come on, this is an easy one. He wanted to get all the traffic. Anyway, good morning. I'm excited. Everybody who's listening, whether you're listening live or if you're listening to a recording later, get your pens out. There's going to be tons of cool tips and action items and actionables that you can use. We're also going to share some templates and things that will make doing SEO easy. We're not going to talk about theory and high level. We're going to try to really get into the details and have some fun. So hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoyed prepping for it. And I think let's get the show on the road.
Awesome, I'm stoked. All righty, so Steve, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and about Wiideman Consulting and what you guys are up to right now? And what
Sure,
you're
no, absolutely. Well, our specialty is multi-location digital marketing, right? Our goal is to help businesses that struggle scaling. Hey, we've got 2,000 locations, but we've got a team of 3. How do we write content for all these locations? How do we outrank the local guy who's got all day long to grind and get their location to show up in maps? So what we do is we help businesses provide strategy to do that. My start of SEO started in the 2000s, like early 2000s. I was a web designer in the late 90s and decided, hey, I really want to get into helping my clients get traffic to their website, not just be a brochure or a link on their business card. So I just kind of got into it in necessity, and I followed the pioneers in the early days. So big shout outs to Bruce Clay and Aaron Wall and Danny Sullivan and all the earlier, like I mentioned, pioneers in the digital marketing, search marketing specific industry. I went back to school, got a degree in e-business management, picked up a really cool role with a company called Disney. You guys have heard of Disney, right? It was really fun. I got to help with the paid search for Disneyland Marketing, Commerce, and Adventures by Disney under a amazing genius named Terry Cox, who's now working for Panera. And from there, I did some agency work and decided, what, I want to be closer to home. Got, my little consultancy going, and now we're 10 years in. I've got a team of 9. We work with some really fun brands. We get to be a little bit picky on the types of companies that we work with, and we love to share. So today is hopefully just one more example of us just spewing out all sorts of great tips and strategy for everybody.
That's awesome. So I have a feeling we're going to have a great discussion today on how businesses can outrank their competition on Google. To our audience who's tuned in already, I recommend staying until the very end. Steve will be sharing a ton of great information on how Google search works and how you can use that information to make changes that can make you look more appealing than your competition. Before we get into it, I want to get a quick poll running just to get a pulse of the, where everybody is at. So let's go ahead and do that now. Where's my polls? There we go. All right. So the first poll is, when searching for what you do in your area, do you show up on the first page? An example of this could be like if you're searching for the best plumber in Austin. All right, we got some results coming in.
I was trying to click one, Justin, but there wasn't an option for duh. Yes and no, I don't know. Do you know, while everyone's doing the poll, one fun story is a challenge my boss at Disney had when I said, hey, we should do some SEO, is, well, show me you can do it. And I ended up ranking for like Orange County SEO expert. He's like, nobody searches for that. Show me you can show up for SEO expert, and we'll make it, we'll talk about it. And so I created a landing page. I did, on page, off page, and a little bit of user behavior influencing. And I got to that first position. I held it for 12 years. Number 1 ranking for SEO expert, until a peer told me, hey, one of the reasons you're not getting invited to speak at some of these events is everybody thinks you brag about being number 1 for SEO expert. And I'm like, well, that was something I did to get my job done, right? And it just kind of stuck. But he was right. As soon as I removed the page, immediately I'm invited to events, and I've got the coolest friends in the world, like you and the team at Birdeye, and it's been amazing. It was, one of those things you don't realize happens until somebody who knows you whispers in your ear and is like, dude, take that thing down, it's bragging, Anyway.
That's crazy, and you wouldn't even think like it would come across that way. That's really interesting. Well, I'm glad
I remember I think it was Brad Callen had it. Brad Fallon, one of the two. Then I remember walking into to the office at Disney, and I was playing, I think it was Ludacris, Move Out the Way, and everyone's like, what's going on with Wiideman? It's like, oh, he beat the dude for number 1 for SEO expert, and everybody was laughing at me.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
all righty, so it looks like the voting has kind of come to a stop, so let's go ahead and close that and share these out. Oh, share those again.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, very close. So 55% are saying that they do show up on the first page of Google. That's awesome. See, did these results surprise you at all?
A little bit. Yeah, I think some businesses know they rank for their own names, but very few, know where they rank for their most important keyword. And it's interesting to me that the people who are already doing well in search, would attend a webinar on how to do well in search. That tells you that some businesses don't rest on their laurels, and all of you who said yes should be super proud of yourselves for attending any sort of event and not saying, oh, I'm already number 1, I don't need to do this stuff, because your competitor doesn't have his feet on their desk, right? So kudos to you.
That's awesome. All righty, so I think based on these results we just saw, I think a great place to start is the common mistakes that are made when beginning the SEO journey. So right. Steve, could you tell us what are the most common ones you've come across in your time, and what kind of effect do they have?
Sure, and every day we're going to be finding more and more and more mistakes, right? I don't know if you want to hit the bullet for everybody there, but here we go. Yeah, so of course the first thing is just not getting the right help before you get started. Sometimes like you hear the phrase, the saying, I don't do my own electrical, I don't do my own plumbing, and that's for a reason. Some people have practiced it for years, right? So one of the best business owners I've worked with is Paul Altieri at Bob's Watches, and something that he does that continuously impresses me is he brings in experts to give him the strategy and the roadmap. He doesn't bring them in to do the work, right? He brings in people that are competent and capable of following the roadmap and checking boxes off, but he brings in people who are, 5, 10 years senior, in the industries that he's trying to achieve success in. So I think that's number one, is don't just dive in and try to reinvent the wheel. There's enough resources and experts and consultants out there that are reasonably affordable. Some are even free. Just go to social networks and and ask some questions. Go to Quora and you'll see experts that have ratings and so forth. So I would say just diving in. And the reason why is because in some instances you might make a mistake that might end up costing you a lot more money to clean up than it would have to have just done it right the first time.
Interesting. All righty, the next one.
Yeah, the research piece. Again, you hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I do social, I do SEO, right? What do you do?" "Oh, I do some keyword things and some stuff and whatever." And there's not really a roadmap or a strategy. And I feel like the businesses that are the most successful are the ones that will take at least 30 to 90 days to really build out a solid roadmap for what they want to do to handle technical SEO and what they want to do to handle their content roadmap, and looking at the competition, looking at search terms, looking at all that data and coming up with a roadmap and a timeline. Then you have peace of mind. You don't have to go, "I'm doing it." And you say, "We have a roadmap. Next month, we're going to be doing this, 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 and this. This month, we're executing a whole new section of our site to address all of these keywords with all of these new pages, with all of these different user intentions." So I think having that solid plan and doing your research can make all the difference.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if you were to combine these two mistakes, then you're setting yourself up for failure. If you're diving into this whole journey without support and you're not performing enough research, it's
Right.
just not gonna work.
And Justin, you're right. If you think about it, if you said, "You know what, I'm just gonna write some content for my blog every day because someone told me I need to have content," you look back a year later and you've invested $10,000 in in contents and writers, and then you look at the Google Analytics or whatever web analytics tool you're using, like, you know what, none of this actually drove any traffic, or if it did, none of it converted into business for us, because again, you didn't have a plan. You just said, "Let's just create some stuff to create some stuff," and it's just throwing money away. So really having a plan is so important. That roadmap we talked about, depending on what your business model is, if you're a brick and mortar business and a service business, then of course you're going to be focused on the Google Maps section. We'll talk more about that, in upcoming slides, but having the right roadmap for how to handle the areas of focus for maps is going to be critical. But looking at every month with the team, how you're doing in those different areas and holding each other accountable is even more important. It's great if you have a roadmap, but all of us buy a lot of programs and software and courses, and with the intent of doing something with them. And most of us, unfortunately, just file it away. "Hey, I just paid $1,000 for someone to give me an audit. Really interesting. I did a couple things, I put it away, and then I go back to work." A year later, you're like, "What happened to that roadmap?" So I think holding each other accountable every month to executing the items on that roadmap is going to be a big part of that success.
Yeah, definitely. So not even just creating a roadmap, but actually following it and working on it and managing it and using it, not just creating it and then forgetting about it.
Absolutely. One fun tool to use too, I know we didn't put this in the slide, but we use a service called monday.com, and it's this really easy to use elastic project management system, and there's templates in there for some digital marketing things, and some of the things that we talked through today might end up being task lists of things that you might want to work on. But monday.com is great because it's got a cool little mobile experience for your phone, and it's just really easy to use.
That's awesome. I've used Monday too, and it's great. It's helped me stay on task, even for personal stuff. It's a really awesome.
Yeah, it's cool for task management.
Awesome. So let's see. All right, the next one, assuming you can figure it out on your own.
DIY. I did this in 2003 when I was doing a really aggressive SEO campaign for a client that did monitor parts. And I remember how much work it was. It was staying up till 1, 2 in the morning, figuring things out and cross-checking my ideas off of what other SEOs had done. It was a lot of work, and in some cases, several years of school, right? So I think trying to go out on it on your own could cost you so much more money than what you need to be paying. If you look at what your time is worth, right? If you look at if you were to establish an hourly rate for yourself and you say, okay, it's going to take me 200 hours to figure it out all on my own, what does that mean in terms of dollars? If I went to an SEO person, SEO specialist or a consultant, and I paid a couple $100s, would I be saving myself, hundreds of hours of effort trying to figure it all out? And they're going to give you all the steps and things to do without you having to go out and figure it all out and piecemeal all those different ideas that are available on the web.
Awesome. Alrighty, and then the last one.
Yeah, so this is one of those gut check moments when you're working on something and somebody says, hey, I know a trick. You can go to Fiverr and you can buy 10,000 links for $5. It's really cool, and the links will help your Google rankings. And you do a search and like links SEO, yeah, links help ranking. Cool. I'm gonna go to Fiverr and I'm gonna buy these 10,000 links. And then, a few days later, the phone stops ringing. You go, what's going on? And you go into your Google Search Console and it says manual action has been taken against your website for attempting to manipulate search results. And now you've got to figure out how to clean all this stuff up, because none of those websites have anyone you can actually talk to get that effort removed or reverted. So I think anything that you do that feels like it's tactic and not strategy, I would talk to somebody before implementing, because it can be a lot of work. We had a client who used a tool called Linkworth or something years ago. I don't want to call them out, maybe they're better now, but as soon as they implemented that, they saw their rankings immediately plummet, and they spent I think it was about 3 months and about $18,000 trying to clean up the mess that they had created with the intent of trying to manipulate search results. So instead of trying to manipulate search results, let's just show Google that we're the best search result through our content, through the collaborations and the relationships that we're building, through the links that we're earning by sharing really helpful content.
I mean, and that ties to the first common mistake we covered, is diving into an SEO effort without support. If you're doing this all on your own, or assuming you can figure it out on your own, you could find yourself doing something that could be a little shady and could cost you. So having that support and people there who might be a little bit smarter than you in this stuff could be a huge money saver, time saver, and it's an absolute game changer for you.
Yeah, no kidding. I can't tell you how many times I've had a service person come in and say, who did this? And my wife's like, my idiot husband who thinks he can do anything. I'm like, yeah, I did it. I didn't know what I was doing, but I figured I could figure it out. It's like, well, it's going to cost you a lot of money now. I'm like, oh, I know. So,
awesome.
So many times. Don't be a Steve.
Oh, say that again.
So don't be a Steve.
Don't be a Steve. Awesome. All right. So now that we've covered some of the common mistakes that can be made, Steve, what is your advice on getting started when trying to implement an SEO strategy?
Sure. Well, there's a few parts, right? It's from a local standpoint, because we know a lot of our customers are local. The first thing we want to do is really just make sure that we've claimed our new Google business profiles, right? It used to be Google My Business. Now it's Google Business Profile. That's the first thing we want to do, is just make sure it's there, and that we're keeping it up to date. Whether you're just checking it once a day, every morning you get up and you take a look at your listing and make sure everything's correct. Maybe get directions, even though you know the directions, just to make sure that Google's giving you the correct directions. Just making sure that that is up to date and accurate. Next thing is, making sure that we're sending users to the right page on our website. If we have multiple locations, sending them to the home page is going to make them have to navigate your website to find your location page, to make sure they know, one, where it is, how to get to it, and whether you even have an office in their area. So making sure you're using that local URL that you've created. And it's well optimized, which we'll talk through in a little bit, because we did this really fun study. Again, just making sure Google's up to date and accurate, making sure we're sending them to the right local landing page. The next thing we want to do is look at the visibility off our website. As Googlebot and Bingbot are crawling through the web, they're trying to understand how prominent you are and how other people are talking about your brand and your business. There's this idea of entities, right? Your name and how it corresponds to words that it finds, the search engines find on these other pages. Back in the day when when I kind of neglected that SEO experts query that we were talking about, but I was still there, I was still ranking. One of the reasons I was still ranking was because I would always use the title SEO expert in bios and author bios and in interviews that I did. So even though I didn't have the best links, and at the time I still didn't even have the best content, I was able to rank simply because my name, Steve Wiideman, became semantic to SEO expert. In the same way for local businesses, the more our business information is found online, sort of like playing Pac-Man, right? Every time Google's crawling around like Pac-Man, eating these little pellets everywhere, the pellets are your business information, and the more they find that business information, the more it can support it. Now that ranking signal, there was a recent local study, that ranking signal from that study seems to have gone down, but in really diving into that study, the reason why it seems to go down is because the criteria they're using are sort of around general common business directories that a lot of users just don't navigate to. So my caveat to that is you can still use your business information and your links everywhere you can and have it still benefit you, but do it at a really hyper local level, meaning, and we'll talk about this more in a minute, but meaning try to get local businesses to collaborate with you and to mention you on their sites, not just web directories that nobody ever goes to and that Google doesn't crawl to quite as much. And the last piece is reputation. Obviously, nobody clicks on a 1-star review. And if you've got 2 reviews and 3 stars and your competitor has, 165 and 4.5 rating, likely the competitor is going to get clicked on more. When we think about principle-based SEO, content, off-page, and user behavior signals, even if our content's amazing and we're getting all of these citations and links, if users aren't clicking on our results in the search results, of course, Google is going to infer that it's not very helpful, and you're going to get demoted over time. So the user behavior side of having a really strong reputation is probably even more important than Google finding sentiment and reviews and ratings on third-party sites. So I would say, reputation is part of that ongoing pulse of what you become really obsessed with. I have a client who, the moment a review comes in, it gets on his phone and he addresses it in seconds. Hey, thank you so much for leaving the great review. Oh my God, I'm sorry you had that experience. Call me right away and we'll take care of this. So those are your 4 pillars if your goal is to appear and rank well in the Google Maps blended search results in a web search or in Google Maps by itself, is making sure your business data is accurate and consistent, making sure that your local page that you have is relevant and matches what you've provided to the Google Business Profile, making sure that your business information is getting out there more and more and more every month, and then lastly, managing online reputation and making sure every month we're improving the quality and velocity of reviews. And if you do this every month and you hold your team accountable to it, maybe you run some incentive program for each of those 4 areas, you're going to see growth in Google Maps every month, I guarantee it. Not just growth in terms of ranking, but growth in terms of the number of search terms you might appear for. Awesome. So it looks like we lost Justin.
I lost my video here. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Still hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you flip the next slide?
Awesome. So that makes sense that the Google Business Profile and the maps would be the first place to start. I think back to the times when I've been searching for something like the best sushi spot in Austin. A lot of the times that's the only thing I see really. It's like I do the search, I see their Google Business Profiles, I see like the top 3, and then I go to the maps and I find out where it is and I read the reviews, and that's it. I don't even go to the website. So having that first impression, start with your Google Business Profile is really important. And to piggyback off your point on paying attention to your online reputation, I do want to point out that the Birdeye platform allows you to manage all of your business listings, reviews, ratings, and even customer referrals, and a lot more from one easy platform. This is really helpful, especially if you have a lot of locations and you have to manage multiple Google Business Profiles or maps and all those different things and listings. So I just wanted to point that out. So
I get thanks all the time, Justin, from my clients who I recommended to it for reviews. So like, man, they get a text message now after having, coming in and for whatever service they happen to come in for. When they leave, they get a text message. They click the little link in the text message. They leave us the review, so we have a chance to handle, poor, where you have a client who's had a poor experience before they go out to third-party sites, and then it gives you the option to push them wherever you want that after they leave their review with you, with content that hopefully you'll use on those local pages to make them more helpful. But then they'll say, oh, you had a great experience, fantastic. Would you love to share online? And you can choose, hey, I want to send them to Facebook. I want to send them to Google. I want to send them to Yelp, right? You can do whatever you want with that after they give you, the best content for your site. You can send them off. I love that. And the text, like everybody clicks on that. It's incredible.
Awesome. So outside of Google Business Profiles and Maps, there's your standard organic search. What advice would you give to the audience to help improve their online presence in that way?
Sure. Well, starting with that plan, of course, is the most important. Figuring out what our content roadmap is going to look like. What pages do we need to have that our competitors have, and how do we make them better and more helpful? I think that's going to be a big part of it. We have a client who is an attorney, right? Well, had a client who's an attorney, and he's on his own now. That's what we do. We help clients kind of get on their feet and manage their own search. And what's great is when we started working with him, he had one page for practice areas. I'm like, well, what kind of cases do you take? And he's like, oh, I have cases for car accidents and dog bites. And I'm like, could we create a page for each of those so that when someone's searching for dog bite lawyer in your city, I think we used Austin as an example earlier, dog bite lawyer in Austin, that we have a page for the user who does that search that entices them to want to choose our page, and then they go to our page, and there's enough trustworthy, helpful, sales driven content to try to get them to become a customer. And then we start building that content out based on all the different ways somebody searches. We had a company that worked in the spiral stair space. They had 10 fabricated products. And by doing some of this content road mapping, we were able to figure out that people were searching all sorts of different ways. They were searching by use types like deck, patio, library, basement, all sorts of different ways for their product. They were searching by materials, spiral stairs, wooden spiral stairs, glass spiral stairs, modern. And I'm like, wow, we could create a page for each of these different ways that people are searching for all these different intents. And so we went from a 10-page website to like a 300-page website. And now the traffic is just like astronomically higher because we've handled all the different intents that somebody has when they're looking for what our product does for them. And then that off-page visibility side, right? So just like we mentioned earlier, content, off-page, and user behavior signals. The off-page visibility, when we're talking about organic results, not the maps. The maps, we want to get our business data everywhere and be consistent. But for organic results, the priority is going to be getting other websites to link to us and to mention us. And you know what? If we want that featured answer at the top of search, we probably want them to share our short summary as well. So I would start with, coming up with, an actual link strategy. What are we going to do to get in 2022 other websites to link to us? Let's start with looking at our Google Analytics, going into our content and looking for titles that start with not found or include the word not found. Let's reclaim all those links that are coming into our website that are now going to a 404 page. What about all those websites that mention us but don't link to us? Could we do a search for our brand name in quotes and go out to each of those websites that aren't linking to us and say, hey, could you make our name clickable so people can visit our website? There's the collaborations and events that you could do with other brands, or if you're a local business, maybe you'll do a community event together and be the one that hosts the content on your site. Lots of things that you can do to earn links where you're not having to try to manipulate search results by buying them or provisioning them. Instead, you're building content that's easy and gives a good reason people would want to link to it. I think that's where I would start. Those three things, and just like with local, let's do it every month. Hey, content writer, how is your content performing in terms of its rank and the number of search terms it's appearing for? What are some things that you plan to do to improve that next month, or if you're running in quarters, next quarter? Hey, technical SEO person, hey, webmaster, what are we doing this month or this upcoming month to improve page speed, accessibility, security, mobile user experience, conversion rates? What's the game plan, and how did we do last month? Really holding the team accountable to those things that go into a fundamental SEO strategy. So content, off-page, user behavior signals. What have we done to improve those three areas every month? And again, try some incentives, do some fun, goofy things to get people engaged in the project, and then when they succeed, reward them. And even if it's just hey, I just want to tell you, you did an amazing job this month. Look at what you did with the rankings. This is incredible. And we get so caught up in the business sometimes that we just expect people, oh, that's this job, that's what they're supposed to do. And it's like, well, no, they kind of want some validation to know that what they're doing is making a difference. So, make sure those people know that.
Awesome. So you mentioned earlier, and I want to rewind because you did mention creating a roadmap. Can you touch on that just a little bit more and talk about what that process looks like?
Sure. We start with a technical audit, of course, right? And here's your bullet list already. That technical audit for us, it's about 45 different rows and 72 different criteria that we look at. A lot that I just mentioned: privacy, security, accessibility, mobile page speed, all of the things, right, that go into making sure search engines can crawl index and rank our pages appropriately, that they can find one version of a URL and not 20 to know which version is the most appropriate to to show in search results. Making sure that we're not throwing all sorts of crazy interstitials or pop-ups at our users, and that we're not hiding content to try to show search engines one thing and users another. That keyword research we talked about earlier, the greatest way to start there is just look at the free Google Search Console tool. There's tons of data in there. I would do it by URL. Take one URL from your website that's an important page for you, right? Whatever service you have in that area, put that URL into Search Console and see what search terms historically have driven traffic to that page. Maybe transfer those into some of your paid strategy for Google Ads as ad groups for each page, because now you already know that most of those search terms are relevant because Google's been showing your page for them. Look at your search term query data to come up with some of those keywords, so that when your stakeholders say, why did you choose these keywords? You can say, because the data showed that those keywords converted into sales for us. Great, keep up the good work. And then get into the competitive insights. Then start looking at your competition. You can use tools like SEMrush or Ahrefs or Conductor Searchlight. All these great keyword tools will help you to pull in a lot of data, aggregate it into one big list, and then start organizing it into what eventually becomes your content roadmap. The off-page visibility piece, we just gave some tips on what you can do there. My favorite tools for looking at off-page visibility include link research tools, includes looking at Ahrefs link intersect tool. That's really fun. And there's also a link gap tool that you could use in SEMrush. That's also really helpful if you want to kind of figure out what the competition's up to and go after what they're going after. But I can tell you the best off-page visibility strategy is to come up with something that the competition hasn't done. Like this recent study we did on local pages, we've already earned over 300 links to that page because we shared a lot of really helpful insights, that help our industry, that help SEOs as they're trying to figure out what they want their local pages to look like. We just designed it all out for them. All they have to do is put their branding on it, and boom, I've got myself a well-optimized local page. And then the analytics piece, right, is making sure we've set our KPIs. What are our KPIs for links based on what the competitive landscape looks like? What's our KPI for technical SEO? How many errors do we have in some of these tools, and what do we want to get to by the end of the year? What are our KPIs in terms of keyword market share? If we've taken all the keywords that we want to appear for and we've put them into a rank tracker somewhere, and we've segmented them by our different business divisions, maybe we do plumbing and electric and HVAC, right? Maybe we separate those into different segments, and maybe we separate our sales content from our marketing content into different segments. And then we look at how we're doing versus the competition. Hey, we've got 12% of the market share in search for plumbing services in Nashville. That's fantastic. But our content marketing isn't doing as well. The upper funnel content to drive more brand awareness, we've only got 3% and our competition's at 12. So, looking at those and segmenting them so that we can set some KPIs at the end of the year. We want to own all that market share, right? So I think that's an important part of it. And the bottom line for the business owners, revenue would be a KPI. It would be the number of leads perhaps that come in from the website. Leads, if you've got a really good CRM, leads that culminate into actual revenue for you, that could be really helpful. So having somebody kind of manage the helm with analytics and getting some monthly reports so you get a pulse on how you're doing and have it broken down by your different business objectives.
Awesome. I want to touch on off-page visibility a little bit more. I feel like that's something that not a lot of people might think about when they're approaching SEO, unless you're well versed in it and this is something that you've been doing for a while. I think back on myself, like whenever I have those moments where I'm like, I don't really think I know what I'm doing. This is one of those moments where I'm like, oh, I never really even thought about off-page visibility,
Sure.
Because when you focus on that, when you think about this, you think about, okay, what do I need to do with my website, and my Google business profile. You don't really think about like how the effect of other people linking to your website could actually help you. So I was wondering if you could dive into that just a little bit more, maybe provide an example or a couple of ways that someone could start generating that offsite visibility.
Sure. Yeah, and we threw some ideas into the slides as well for everybody. So there's some ideas here on this slide, like getting the neighboring businesses involved. Here's one where our client decided to do something. He's an attorney, and he decided to do something for safety with helmet safety. So he was giving helmets away to kids for safety, and it was such a success that once people found out that he was doing it, local TV and radio stations picked it up and they shared it, and He didn't have to pay for any of that advertising. It was all free, and he did something great for the community. Earned lots of mentions of his business data because obviously it was at his office, outside the office. So all the neighboring businesses were like, yeah, we'll put name, address, phone number of where to go to get the free helmets on what day. It was just a really great win, helping the community while also boosting our map rankings by getting more business data and boosting our organic rankings by getting links from those websites that were sharing the events. So just a phenomenal way to make a difference when it comes to to off pages. And remember, Google's whole page rank system, right, that Larry Page created in 1998 hasn't gone anywhere. We don't have a little toolbar to look at anymore. Google took that away because of shady, businesses that were selling, link placements based on page rank numbers. But we know it's still a voting system that Google uses to rank websites. Content obviously is important in the beginning to make sure they know what search terms that page should be appearing for. But long term, it's about how other websites are sharing and linking to our pages. It's about how users are interacting with our listing in the search results. So I think when you look at this off-page strategy, if you come up with a game plan, you look at where the competition are earning links, you get rid of anything that won't send referral traffic or customers or really boost brand awareness. Don't waste your time with those websites. I don't know how they happen. I think a lot of them are just shady sites that are linking to competitors as a way for them to try to game search results. They have zero value. Focusing on those sites that are going to help benefit your business, help maybe build some collaboration with other brands that culminates into years of referral traffic and and hopefully some free traffic from search.
Awesome. And this is definitely something that local businesses should focus on. I feel, connecting with the community in your area where your business is actually located, and maybe even some of the other businesses in your community that could be, really important, for your area search,
100%.
things like that.
And it's fun. It gets everyone out of the office for a day, right?
Awesome. So those are some great tips to help with your ranking and your SEO efforts. But another KPI that people should probably be paying attention to is click-through rate. Because if you rank high, that's all really good, but if no one clicks on your website, then there's really no point to it. So my question is, how do you make your page stand out from your competitors?
So this is that third signal we talked about, Justin. This is the user behavior signal, is getting other users to want to choose us when they have 10 listings to choose from. So I think that's the one of the most challenging parts of SEO is really making sure that we do stand out from the competition in one way or another. It's really easy just to put, we used Dog Bite Lawyer earlier, right? Dog Bite Lawyer Austin, and then business name. And okay, well, that solves what the user is searching for, but it doesn't give them a reason why they should choose you. And the next listing down says, or up maybe because they're above you already, says something like, best dog bite lawyer in Austin for 16 years. We winner, you don't pay. Oh, cool. There's a value proposition here, right? These are kind of what we call SEO principles. You can Google them. I think we got a page about it, but it's really around making sure the keyword that we're targeting, the most important keyword, is used. A call to action: purchase, buy, download, get, read, reserve, right? Use a call to action so the user knows what they can expect to do when they get to the page itself. And then a value proposition. Why should they click us? And there's a lot of controversy around CTR. I get a lot of negative feedback from people who are like, CTR is not a ranking signal. Yet every single time we test it, every single time, we see changes and improvement in rankings every single time. And I know there's correlation, causation. The only thing we've changed is the title and the meta description in those tests. So we know CTR is, but why it's not a sustainable effort if you're trying to manipulate your search behavior, like maybe paying users to click on your listing or telling your friends, hey, click on my listing all day long. That's not something that is sustainable, because it's an algorithm and it's smart. It's going to figure out patterns of unusual behavior and it's going to filter it out. In some cases, you'll even get penalized. So we want to do it organically. We want to make sure people are choosing us more often. And by the way, that's how I got that SEO expert position years ago. My page was great, my links were okay, but I went to events and I asked people to search during the events, and I asked for a show of hands of those people who clicked, and sure enough, within hours, my ranking was already moving up. So I know for a fact CTR does play an impact, but only if they stay on your site if you trick them to get to your website with some neat text and titles and descriptions, and they feel cheated, they're going to go back to Google and they're going to choose a competitor, or worse, they're never going to click on your listing again, right? So we want to make sure, again, that we're doing it organically and that we've satisfied all those different things that we know our users care about when they get to our the page that shows up in search results. So being forward thinking, so one of the things that you could do is use the Google rich snippet gallery, and what it allows you to do is test some things on your page that will give you a little thumbnail next to your results. It'll show your star ratings of your customers who've left you native reviews on your site. You can really stand out. With our restaurant chains, we've actually done some things with events, like when they had the Elf on the Shelf last year. With IHOP, we put on every local page, we put this schema.org/event markup. And now we didn't just have a blue link and black text. We had a blue link, black text, and a whole nother row that talked about the event that they were running, and another link in that extra row that went straight to the event page. So some really cool things that you can do to stand out in the search results. Customer problems, there's schema.org/FAQ page. We talked to the senior analysts at TripAdvisor, I think it was January, and they said, we're putting FAQ markup on everything. I'm like, what is this, a Frank's Red Hot commercial? Like, we're putting it on everything. And they really are. If you look at TripAdvisor's pages, they've got FAQ page markup on everything. Competitive industries, look at their pages. You'll see there's FAQ markup on there because they want those extra rows beneath their listing in Google with those frequently asked questions. So definitely something that you can do and add to your content strategy is get some markup on those pages. Use schema.org, use the rich snippet gallery with Google to get some ideas. Get really creative if you can, and be goofy. Try some things like emojis. Depending on your industry, you could get really creative and fun and goofy and put emojis in your title and in your description to stand out. We put a phone emoji in there for one client. We did try it for law, and two things happened. One, nobody clicked on it because they didn't think it was very professional, because they were looking for a lawyer and they're pissed and serious, and they don't want emojis because they're pissed and serious. And the other thing that we noticed happened is that Google automatically removed the emoji after a while because it noticed nobody was clicking on it because it had it. But test it, test some things, try some things out, see what works. Watch your Google Search Console for that URL and see what your click-through rate looks like, if it's improving or not improving.
Awesome. So I feel like we might have covered some of these points that's going to be on the next slide just now. So I want to go over here and, so what are some specifics that someone should look at when they're trying to boost that CTR rate? Is there anything else here that you want to build off of?
Those are the fundamentals, right? The titles, the descriptions. I try to make sure, like I said, there's a keyword, a call to action, and a value proposition. With Skechers, we were able to put in the price across all product pages, and we saw like 1,000% increases in CTR. It was ridiculous because we were using price transparency. We know what our customers want because we asked them. We reached out and said, what is it you really like about us? We looked at our reviews, and we looked at keyword clouds from the reviews of what people were saying about us, and we got those things into the title and description. So we solved for their intent of what they wanted. This first example, right, when somebody was typing in what was it, title tag principles, they don't care about title tag principles. What do they really want? Oh, they want to boost their CTR and their organic rankings. Well, great, let's put that in there so that we know that they know that that this is what this page is going to help them to solve for. I was looking for casual shoes, but what I was really looking for was comfortable shoes, right? So really understanding what the customer is looking for and getting that into the title and description can make a huge difference. That's and again, just try and stand out. Look at the search results. So many of our customers, we ask them, what would you like to appear for? And they say the search term, and we say, have you ever done a search for that to see what shows up in the type of content? No, I just look at my rankings. Well, look at the type of content. Look at what the top listings are and what they're doing that you might not be. They just won't take that 2 seconds to perform a search and study the competitors and see what could be working for them, and then drawing inspiration from it to create something even better.
So I want to shift gears into content creation. And before we start talking about content, let's do one more poll for the day. And the question for this one is, how often are you refreshing your most important content based on recent data?
11 times a day. Okay, who put what's content? Someone put, I don't watch Star Trek. No, not that data. Come on, guys.
Awesome.
This will be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm super curious to see what people come up with.
Yeah, I'm seeing them roll in right now. We got some interesting results. Okay.
You notice I had to slip on the BCGs. We call them that in the military, and my wife still calls them BCGs, as in like birth control glasses. So you feel really good about yourself, and you put these things on, and you're like, yeah, hey.
BCGs, I like that.
Everyone
Awesome.
have
All
fun.
right, so the voting is slowed down, so let's go ahead and share these responses. Looks like we've got 35%, which is the winner, say they never refresh their most important content, followed by 31% saying quarterly. How do these results reflect off of what you've seen, Steve?
That's normal. That's why there's such a high churn rate on agencies. Right? The businesses are like, I don't think our SEO agency is doing a good job anymore. They did really good in the beginning, but then they kick their feet up. They're like, hey, we got into that top position. Now, we kick our feet up while the competition continues to nurture their pages. So one really simple thing that you could do here is every month get a report from what the competitors are doing with their pages. There's a free plugin for Chrome that you could use called Visual Ping, P-I-N-G, Visual Ping, and basically set up an alert for every time your competition changes their version of a page you're competing against. So if you're an accountant and you're going after tax accountants, Austin, right, and that's your keyword, do that search. Pick up Visual Ping for all the competing pages that show up on page one so that you can watch them over time and see what changes and what they're doing and what's working for them. Picking up those alerts is just the first place to start. The second thing is getting those segmented ranking reports. Again, whether using Conductor or SEMrush or another tool, look at those monthly reports and look at those segments to see how you're performing. And then take the data from your Search Console and from your Google Ads data and continue to chip away at improving the content and the uniqueness and the helpfulness of those pages. And it could only take maybe 30 minutes a month. But if you can make one adjustment to a page in 30 minutes and next month get 2 more sales, is it worth that 30 minutes? I think it might be.
Awesome, that's great. So let's dive into content creation. I feel like this brings up a lot of questions, and how do you know what you're creating and posting on your website is even helping your ranking? How do you know? So my question for you is, what is your approach to content creation? Is there a certain mindset you should have going into it, or are there questions that you should ask yourself when approaching content creation for SEO?
Right. This is a deep topic. We could even do a webinar just on this topic alone, because there's different areas. We talk about, for example, user intent. Where are they in the buyer journey? Are they looking for information because they own a type of product and might be a customer down the road? Are they searching to compare products to decide which company to go with? Do they already know what they want and they're doing a long tail specific search query and ready to make a purchase, or maybe even adding up a price range in their query? That's the first place to start, right? Is what is the user intent? And our segmentation there in our reports, how we run them, is upper versus lower funnel. I mean, there's obviously transactional, informational, and navigational content, but really what we're going to pay the most attention to is informational and transactional, right? What is the content that's going to bring in customers, and what is the content that is going to help us to build brand awareness, attract links, encourage sharing? And I think where companies get a little mixed up here is because they're like, hey, I want to rank for, what was the one we used earlier, tax accountant Austin. So they go out to some tax broker. Hey, I need an article for tax accountants, or tax accountant Austin, and they get back this article. What is a tax accountant? And they put it on their page and like, okay, now I should rank for that keyword. And they're just listening to crickets, and the tumbleweed rolls past their desk. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Because they didn't know to create a persuasive sales page that invokes trust signals and expertise signals, and and has principles such as urgency, scarcity, reciprocity, authority, right? All those things that go into a really good sales customer attracting page, they didn't know to do that. They just said, I want to rank for a word, order an article. The first way that they would know to do that is by performing a search and analyzing those competing pages. Ooh, I need a sales page. I don't need a marketing page. And then the next issue that I see the most often as comes to content creation is let's put all this great content on our blog. Let's just shrapnel it, throw it on the blog. It's easy, just blog post it, right? And the problem there is that now you're not creating supportive content underneath your sales pages to help those sales pages be more helpful. You're just throwing content in a completely different section of your website, hoping that it's not going to compete against that sales page. And oops, I accidentally wrote a blog post and over optimized for a lower funnel keyword. And now my conversion rate went in half because instead of going to my sales page, they're going to my blog post, and that's not converting because it's a casual page. So I think there's definitely some strategy that has to be, put into play as you start to get into your content roadmap. The next thing is thinking about the page itself. As I'm creating an informational page, what are some things that I can do to make that page amazing, aside from just making it better than the competing pages? One thing that we've noticed recently is if we can put the short summary to that informational page at the top of the page, and maybe even put a copy to clipboard next to it, it makes it easy for other websites to curate that and share it and syndicate it and distribute it all over the web because they find it really helpful. As Google's crawling the web and it finds that 375 characters or so, it starts to think, wow, this seems to be the best answer to this particular question because I see this answer everywhere. And the first place I found it was on this website. Soon you find yourself in that coveted position 0 featured answer at the top of the search results. And guess what? That featured answer becomes what 70% of the Google Assistant queries are going to spit back at you. So, thinking about Alexa and Siri and Cortana and Google Assistant and Google Home devices or now Google Nest, as they're spitting out questions, it could say, well, according to Joe's Accounting in Austin, here's 5 tips for how you can do such and such. It's a great way to build brand awareness. You'll be at the top of the search results. Building authority and trust with users as well as search engines. Just a great thing to think about. So I think as you're building out that content strategy, looking at the keyword data you already have, pulling competitor insights from some of these really neat tools that are available, and then structuring your site in a way that your supportive content supports the actual sales page and isn't just on some blog post, gives you a pretty strong starting point to creating a strategy that attracts customers, builds brand awareness, and hopefully attracts links to your website and gets you into the voice search.
Awesome. So after everything that we've covered today so far, it feels like this can be a lot to manage, especially for one person or for a team, and especially if you don't have a plan set in place, like the common mistakes that we had discussed earlier. So do you have any advice on how you can divide and conquer these SEO deliverables to help properly manage all of this?
Sure. Yeah, and thinking about that last slide too. I mean, it really is, not just about the one place, right? You're not just having the content writer write that one page. Your customers are looking for other types of content, and other team members are going to play a role in helping create that content. The writer, for example, might not be able to do video, but maybe customers are looking for the videos in search results. You have probably 6 different placement opportunities in a search result. You've got, the advertising section, you've got the map section, you've got the organic, you've got images. There's now Twitter feeds again, finally, Twitter carousels. You've got images and videos. You can own a piece of each of those different areas of search results and have 60% of every query, be your content. And those team members, all have hopefully all have experience in working in all those different disciplines. So here's kind of what I would put together. We talked about this earlier, right? It's about making sure our business data is correct and someone or something managing that business data. It's about making sure we're pointing to the right local page and that local page is optimized to be the most helpful. It's about getting our business data all over the place and continuing to do that, and about our reputation. So here's what I would do as deliverables to your team, and you can either divide and conquer this, or if you're small, you might just have one guy or girl or person who's in charge of that of all these different roles. Be careful with this though, because again, you can't always be the jack of all trades, master of none, and be successful. At some point, you might want to scale or grow or get somebody part-time. The first one is just choosing the right platform. And for a local business, tools like Birdeye can do that data management. The data management would be the search engines, the navigation engines, TomTom and Here.com, the social local sites like Yelp and Foursquare and Facebook, local and regional directories, all of those different destinations that are part of what we want to cover in terms of our data visibility. Scheduling time to really play around with that local page. So we did this study. It's on our site at Wiideman.com. Right, I think I put my logo here. Just go to Wiideman.com. It's the first link, local pages, local SEO pages, and we did this really cool study to understand what are the components of those pages. And there's an infographic. So use that as a model, and then send us your page. I want to see what you did and how you did it, and and give you some feedback on it once you've actually created it. So scaling, those local pages through whichever platform you're using or through whoever manages your website can make a difference. If you just have one location, a lot of that information is probably just going to be in the footer or the bottom part of your website across every page. That content syndication and the off-page SEO efforts are definitely still going to play a role. There's some really cool tools out there. I've been bugging Birdeye forever, and it's probably somewhere in the roadmap about doing it, but finding out where the competition are getting their businesses listed, what directories are they getting themselves into. In the local SEO world, we call them citations, but it's really just a business listing somewhere on some website, usually a directory or a chamber of commerce or a city business directory. So making sure that you're everywhere the competition is. And then that user behavior testing, doing that every month as a cadence, and really challenging the team and each other to get better click-through rates, to get people to stay on our website longer, to get them not to leave, and choose a competitor search result. These are the things that I would do monthly, and set some goals like we talked about earlier, some KPIs for the year, how we're getting toward those KPIs, and maybe having some fun with incentives.
Awesome. Cool. So we are running a little short on time, so I want to quickly go through our final takeaways and cover those, and then we can try to answer a couple of questions. And feel free to ask more. As soon as we get done here, we'll have somebody, we'll work on your answers. If you asked it and we can't get to it, we'll have somebody email you with an answer, and we can get that started for you too as well. So the first takeaway is, when getting started, address your Google business and profile, your Google business profile and your maps first, because those are what shows up first on Google, which, by the way, managing this is much easier with the Birdeye dashboard. Second, when it comes to content creation, think about how your customer is searching on Google and not just what they are searching. Put yourself in their shoes. The next takeaway is to develop a roadmap through a technical audit, conducting keyword research, and developing a content strategy. And also make sure that off the website, you're doing what you can to get visibility where your customers are, and get where your customers are, with whether that's with events or through, helmets for kids, things like that. Where are we? Number four is create offsite visibility with the events. And so the fifth takeaway is that the most common mistake businesses make when starting their SEO journey is diving in without support. Trying to tackle SEO and growing your online presence alone will make things much, much harder. And this leads to the sixth and final takeaway, which is to get a powerful all-in-one platform that helps you fix and manage your Google business profile, formerly known as the Google My Business or GMB, and your Google Maps. The platform should get you new reviews on autopilot, help you respond to each one of them in an easy way and quickly, and provide the user-generated content that Google loves, and promote your offsite events through your Google event posts. So these are the takeaways that we've had from this webinar, and I do want to get into the Q&A. We are at the time, so feel free to drop, but I want to at least get to a couple. And so let me check these.
Send your questions after too. I'd love to help however we can. And if you'd like our team to take a look at your local search, we're not doing a lot of work with small businesses at the moment, and the ones that we are doing, we're doing for free, just to try to get some help out there for those people getting ready for 2022. So please hit us up if you want us to take a look at your local search. And for those of you who wanted to see some of the templates that we talked about a bit, we have a site called academyofsearch.com that we've been developing, and the course that I teach at Cal State Fullerton, I've created a very similar version of that. If you're interested in taking that, I'll have a code after the event put in for just the word Birdeye. So go to Academy of Search. use the code Birdeye, save $600, get all of our templates, and get a real extensive training on SEO. It probably takes about 1 to 2 weeks to go through the whole course, get your team in there, and only the caveat is please give me some feedback and let me know what you think as we get into next year's version.
Awesome. Cool. And I just saw a question pop up that I can answer right now. This webinar is being recorded and will be sent to everybody afterwards.
I got those questions before too. Is it being recorded? I can't make it.
All right, so let's do, I mean, we're really running late, so we can have a couple of questions, and we'll be sure to email everybody with an answer, so no worries on that.
We got through it. It's all bonus now. Let's do it.
We got bonus time. All right, we've got one from Amy, and she's asking, outside of looking where we show up on Google search, what are some other metrics that are important to track?
That's a great question, Amy. If you haven't gone into Google Analytics, I would spend some time in there, dive into acquisition, look at, I wouldn't go to channels per se, I think I'd go to medium, and I look at those different mediums that are available to you. So beyond just search, you can look at what you're doing with direct traffic, right, by driving people in through through offline advertising, email if you have a loyalty program and you're trying to build opt-ins, and sending emails out to people to get them to come back and hopefully make a purchase. There's paid, right? And paid would be through Google ads, Bing ads, etc. There's social media. So if you're doing anything with social media, make sure your paid advertising there includes what we use for better tracking, UTM codes. Google has a free tool called the URL Builder tool. If you use the Google URL Builder tool, you just put in those different parameters like source equals Facebook and medium equals social, the content equals blue banner with girl in gray sweatshirt, right? Whatever you want to call it. So that way you have better segmentation of your data. Some other metrics that I look at when we get into just inbound marketing and search marketing specifically, I mentioned a few in terms of KPIs. How are we earning links? Right, what's our link goal, and based on what the competition's been doing, I want to have that as a KPI. I also like to look at technical, so we'll look at SEMrush has a pretty good report that breaks down HTTPS, crawl errors. All of those are rows in your Google Sheet as you're tracking your KPIs. So get that baseline of where we are, set some benchmarks, and then have a goal at the end of the year of where you want to be. For me, technical SEO is I want to have no errors, right? That's the goal, but it can take some time to get there. I mentioned keyword market share. Average position is really important to me. Segmented, of course. Average position for upper funnel, not as important to me as average position for lower funnel because I want to attract customers, but I know it's that upper funnel that's going to drive it. So I'll have a row for average position lower funnel, average position upper funnel. I might even break down some segments there. So if you are, if you're an attorney, you might have a segment for car accidents, truck accidents, wrongful death. If you are a plumber, you might have one for kitchen and one for heaters, right? You break down those different segments and see how you're doing. That way you know where to focus your energy in terms of content creation or content enhancement. That market share reports that you can get from Conductor and from SEMrush are great because it does tell you, what your share of voice is for the keywords that you're tracking. So I would set some KPIs and say, hey, right now I have 11% market share in my area for these search terms. I want to get to 15% by the end of the year. That's a good goal to have. Most of our larger accounts set a 10% increase goal every year. They've been around for a while, they're getting steady traffic, but they want to grow by 10% in organic every year. And that's a simple, easy number to use that you can use across all of those different metrics. Let's improve all the areas of search, revenue, sales, leads, everything by 10% year over year. You might not look at 2020 though, because of the pandemic, it was a big mess. Maybe compare against 2019, just to be fair to the marketing team, because the shift in user behavior has changed quite a bit. So that's, those are sort of fundamental things that we look at in terms of tracking is share of voice, leads, traffic, average position, segmented average position. And I'm happy to share in fact, I think the KPI list is in the program on Academy of Search. So if you do sign up for that, you can download all these different templates we talked about.
Awesome. Cool. So we
thanks,
are
Amy.
over. Oh, say that again.
So thanks, Amy.
Yeah, that was a great question. Awesome. So we are over time and I want to let everybody get back to their lives. So we're going to end it here. We do have a lot more questions to answer, so we will have people reaching out to you with answers. And I just wanted to say thank you so much, Steve. This has been an awesome discussion. It's been jam-packed with a lot. I hope people took notes because there is a lot to cover and the recording will be available. But if anyone in the audience has any other questions, feel free to email us at any time. You can email us at events@birdeye.com. And thank you again, Steve. This is an absolute pleasure. Oh, and actually, we will be meeting up again next month for another webinar. It'll be on January 18th, I believe, and we'll be going over Google Business Profiles, and we'll be diving deep into those. So
that's gonna be fun, especially with all the changes. I can't wait to share some of the stuff that we've been doing. That'll be fun.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot to cover. So thank you everybody for joining. The recording of the session will be made available on the Birdeye website shortly, and you'll receive an email with the link as well. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.